All right, everybody, we are working on our temperature conversion program, and what I want to talk to you about is exception handling. An exception is something that happens during runtime, and in this case, we're going to look for we anticipate there could be problems, and here's why. Users are human, and users are going to use this. So we're going to anticipate, and by the way, if you code programs for humans to use, you've got a plan that they're going to get it wrong. And so you want to anticipate all the ways they can get it wrong. So we click on here, and we ask for the name. Just going to click OK. And now it says, what do we want to convert to? Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay, how could I get this wrong? For one, I could choose to accidentally click OK. And this is actually not that strange because sometimes you click OK too fast, right? But what happens if I click OK? It's going to, first of all, it's going to take whatever I put in here, convert it to a string, but then it's going to try to convert it into a number. And we can't take an empty string and convert it to a number. Although, if it were my program, I'd just convert it to 0, but that's just another story. And look what happened. Program stops. I get this message down at the bottom, exception in thread main. That's the main method here. Java, lang, number format exception. Okay, we had an empty string. We tried to parse it into a double, and it just couldn't do it. Let me show you another way people can get it wrong. No, this is a little more silly, but maybe they're going to hand type it in. Hey, someone's going to do this eventually. Click OK, same thing. This time, it's the same. Well, first of all, it's the same exception. It's the same error going on. But in this case, it's not an empty string. It's just a string that can't be converted to a number. Since we can't parse it into a double, it caused an exception. So what we're going to do now is we're going to code it so that if they put the wrong information, it will capture that and deal with it. Okay? So the first thing we want to do is find out where is this happening. And if we look at it, we have a string with user input. Oh, wait, it's not even here, is it? It's down here. Okay, if our conversion type starts with a 1, and we're trying to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, we're going to get input from the user, and then it's when we try to convert it here. However, both of these need to be handled, because if we can't parse it to a double, we're going to want to force the user to re-enter a temperature. So we're not going to let them get away with it. So what we're going to do is we put it in a while loop. We're going to do it right here. So it's when we get the temperature. And I'm going to keep the comment there. So the first thing we want to do is create a while loop. While. Now, this is going to be an intentional infinite loop. Now, there's different ways we can structure this, but this is how we're going to do it this time. While true. Well, first of all, true is always true. True is never not true. That's a true statement by its own definition. Okay. So, in other words, this is an infinite loop. It will keep looping and looping and looping. Don't worry about that this conversion is giving us errors. We'll deal with that in a moment. Next, not only do you put it in a while loop, but now we're going to try to get the input. So we use try. Put a little curly bracket here. I'm going to tab everything over. And then I'm going to close the curly bracket right here. So while true, we're going to try this. Okay. Now, anytime you have a try, you need to have a catch. And if I hover over this warning, it'll say syntax error, insert finally to complete block statements. Technically, we don't have to. Okay. Now, I'm not done, and I'm going to code this in a certain way. Okay. I'm going somewhere with this. What we want to do is we want to catch an exception. Whenever we do a catch, we have to do a catch, and then in parentheses, we give the type, it's an exception, and we're going to give it a little e. Okay, exception e. So now, here's the deal. We're going to try this. If it runs an error, we go here and we deal with it. But we're going to put it in a while loop. Okay? So we're going to keep looping, but there's a problem with this loop, isn't there? Because it's an infinite loop. We need to get out of this infinite loop. So here's what I recommend. The moment there's an exception, and it's going to occur at line 46. Now, it may or may not. If it does, even if there's other lines of code after it, it will go immediately to the catch block. And so we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to put a break right here. Break gets us out of the while loop. So if there's no exception, if the user enters correct, valid data, okay, we're going to break out of the while loop. If the user types OK, types a string, whatever, that causes an error. We skip the break and go straight to this catch. Questions? Extremely valid question. Can't we just do if and else? And absolutely we can in this circumstance. We can do that. Now, I'm not teaching you if and else at this point. I'm teaching exception handling. Now the reason, okay, so we can handle it differently. This is not the only way to do it. However, when you're trying to do file input or output, or you want to have your own original sort of error, like you're not going to let them do type a number less than 1, greater than 12, or whatever, okay, then you're going to have to use exception handling. So certain exceptions must be handled, and this is a valid way to do it as well. It's basically try, if it runs an exception, then we're going to deal with it. Okay? So it's kind of an exercise in exception handling. I'm sure I'll get a comment on my videos too. All right, on our catch, let me show you something that we can do. I want to show you what that little e does. Let me start over. Show message dialog. Bam. The parent is null because it's just a dialog window. What I want to show you is, I want to just show you the problem here. So we're going to put on here, there was an error. And this also is going to help answer that question as well. A little plus sign here. Now watch this. Remember that little e right up here? Okay, that's going to capture information about the error. So I'm going to put e dot, and look what we can do. We can get the message. We can do toString. I'm going to show you both of those. Let me show you get message. It's going to return the detail message of this throwable, is what they call it. And toString is going to do a short description of this throwable. Okay, so we're going to see this. We're going to see the difference between the two in just a moment. So I'm going to use e.getMessage. Go here. Okay. So we're going to purposely throw the error, and we're going to catch it. And I want to show you what we get. And then I'll explain why we would do exception handling in this case instead of just an if statement. I'm getting there. We run it. Okay. Okay, notice I didn't even have to put a name in. Fahrenheit. Okay, now here's the problem. If we try to do nothing, watch what happens. Aha. There was an error, empty string. Okay? So an empty string can't be converted to... Now, it doesn't give us all the information, does it? I'm going to cancel. So that, it's making me type it in. Okay. Okay, so there we have the exception handling working. Now let's try the other e dot toString. And let's see if it produces different output. Okay. Notice the difference. ToString will say java.lang.number format exception empty string. We get a little more information through here, a little less readable. I would venture to guess that many of you at some point have worked a program and suddenly a pop-up window shows and it gives you a bunch of random text, kind of like that. I'd venture to guess it's happened. If it hasn't, it probably will. Maybe you didn't even think about it at the time. Okay, now, here's why the other reason why we would do exception handling. Logs. If you're writing software and people are going to use it, you want to know anytime there's an error in your program. You're going to want to find out all the circumstances you can about where did this error occur in your code, what caused it, so that you can analyze it and you can deal with it. You may find in your software you keep getting these problems, and if you have a program that logs this error in, then you're going to get the time it happened, you're going to get the nature of the error, you're going to get a lot of information that you're not going to get just with an if type situation. Okay? So this is a way of capturing the information as well that we can use for analysis later on and other things. So that's the other reason why. That all being said, there's how you do it. What I'd like you to do is go into, using this as your model, look at it and try to do the same thing on Celsius. Because the other one is Celsius to Fahrenheit. It does the same thing. It takes the temperature in Celsius and tries to convert it to Fahrenheit. So try to set the same set of error exception handling into that part of the code. So anyway, good luck. I hope you the best. And we'll do more on exception handling on later videos and tutorials as we get a little deeper.